How's it going, everyone? College Lefty, and in this video I'm going to be talking about some of the best cards in MLB The Show 19. I'm going to kind of have them in a little bit of an order. I recently created a video kind of like this a little while ago, and they've recently added many new cards to the game, so I wanted to kind of rank them in a list type of way. Talking a little bit about some of these cards. I think Andre Dawson's one of the underrated outfielders in this game. I don't really see him used that often, but I definitely think he's a really good five-tool player. I also was really excited for Pudge Rodriguez in this year's game. Seeing him revealed early on before the game was released, I was really pumped up for this card. He does have the arm strength at 99, one of the best catchers in the game. However, his 5'9" height, I believe, is what causes him some issues in the field when it comes to blocking pitches. I think that Johnny Bench is probably the better option for defensive catcher. And it makes sense. Johnny Bench, one of the best catchers of all time, if not the best one overall. He also has that increased power. I have him ranked a little bit higher than Pudge, even though Pudge was one of those collection rewards for completing Willie Mays and collecting the AL. I think that this card adds a little bit more value than the Pudge Rodriguez. I do have a couple pitchers on this list, and basically what I want to say about pitching is it's really personal preference. If you can have a pitcher out there that you feel comfortable with, that you're able to close a game out with, or able to shut the opponents down for the most part, then that it will be more valuable than some of these hitters even. I think you could arguably place some of these pitchers a little bit higher up. I have Raleigh Fingers and Kenley Jansen as the two best right-handed pitchers in the game. In terms of relievers, I think that there are a couple of starters that are right at this level, but since these cards have really good pitch repertoires, they also throw a sinker, which seems to be a little bit more, it seems to have a little bit more velocity than even some of the fastballs, some of the other fastballs in the game. I think you have to have those two cards on this list. Recently, when I created this type of video in the past, I had Tony Gwynn as one of the best cards in the game. He was easily top 3 cards, top 5, top 3 cards in the game. And the fact that this card is still on the list when you would be able to unlock this guy right away, probably a week into the game. A lot of people had Tony Gwynn at silver level 1 throughout the XP reward path. Still one of the better cards in the game, but I think that there are a few better options in the outfield with more power once we have some of these recent patches and everything. I think Mike Piazza is a little bit of a better catcher than Pudge or even Johnny Bench, simply because he has the hitting stats. He gets the job done in the field. He doesn't have the arm strength to throw anyone out, but he does get the job done. He's a little bit bigger frame. That 85 blocking works. Ty Cobb is another one, I think, who could be a little bit higher on this list for a lot of people. I think this card is one of the best outfielders in the game in general. He doesn't have the arm strength. That's the one thing he's lacking, but he does have 80s power for a contact, speed, focus type of player. 80s power is really good. I have Josh Donaldson on the list. He could arguably be a little bit lower on this list simply because there are a few better third basemen that have similar stats like Matt Williams, guys like that. I think that this Josh Donaldson, because he is a little bit cheaper of an option, I think that this card is heavily undervalued. I think that that card's really good. He has an amazing swing, a little bit better than some other right-handed hitters with that one-handed swing. Anyway, I think Ernie Banks has to be on the list for shortstops. There aren't too many shortstops I went ahead and put on this list. However, some guys will be able to play there as a secondary position. But I think if I did not have Honus Wagner, I would be trying to use Ernie Banks or my creative player at catcher. I was recently using Rogers Hornsby at shortstop for a long time before I was able to unlock Honus. And he seems like his defense plays above his stats. 75 fielding with 65 reaction is lowered at the secondary position, but he does get really good animations. He played shortstop for me pretty well and made all the routine plays. This card has a little bit more power than some other shortstops in the game. I wanted to include Roberto Alomar right around the same tier as Hornsby. I think this card plays above his stats as well in terms of offense. He does have that quick, short-handed, compact swing, and he is also a switch hitter. So you play the matchup. He has a 121 contact against right with 120 vision. That will certainly help against lefties as well. And some of these guys I think I have on this list are pretty similar with the way they play. They're obviously a little bit different in terms of stats, but I think that they're very similar. You can kind of interchange some of these guys out. I think Vladimir Guerrero could be a little bit lower, maybe even than Dawson. I wanted to include Vlad simply because he has a lot more power. This card is really good. He has a nice swing. I struggle a little bit with that Vlad, but I mainly use him against lefties off the bench. Alex Bregman is probably the best hitter against lefties we have in the game. 125, and 124 vision. That is amazing. You can honestly argue that this card is even better than Frank Thomas, simply because he can play a first base, shortstop, and left field with a little bit better fielding than Frank. He will have silver fielding for those positions. But you have to include Frank on this list as well. Arguably the best first baseman in the game, one of the best, and is also a free option. So that adds some value to him as well. He does have a little bit better stats against righties than that Bregman. Has much worse fielding, but gets the job done against lefties. As we all know, this card is used by a lot of people still to this day, similar in tiers of with that Tony Gwynn card. George Brett, I think, is the most underrated third baseman in this entire game. I think that people that have used him know exactly what I'm talking about. This card has a very glitchy swing, very similar to Tony Gwynn. He also has 125 vision, elite contact versus both sides, and that power really gets the job done. I think he has pretty good power for 77 and 85. I think he plays a little bit above his stats there, and of course the gold fielding. If you don't have someone like Chipper Jones, who will be later on in this video, I would definitely pick up that George Brett. But Billy Wagner is probably the best left-handed pitcher reliever in the game. I think that I put this card a little bit higher up than some of the other relievers, simply because there aren't that many lefties, and this card adds some more value to your squad. If you have that card, then you will have one of the best lefties in the game, and if you're able to locate with him, he will be the best lefty. But Honus Wagner has to be on this list, the rarest card in MLB The Show history. Definitely have to include this guy. He is the best shortstop, I believe, in the game. 123 contact, 125 contact, mid-80s power with diamond fielding and elite speed. I think that you have to include him. Chipper Jones is a card that I think plays way better than in previous years. I really liked using the Immortal in last year's game. I think this version of Chipper Jones is better. I think with the increased vision, the increased contact, he does have enough power to get the job done. I wish he had a little bit more power against lefties, but it is what it is. He does have a nice no-doubt animation from the right side. Ken Griffey Jr. is another card you have to include on this list for one of the best players in the game. In general, Ken Griffey Jr. was the best player in MLB The Show 18, in my opinion. In this year's game, I think there are a few better options out there in the outfield, simply because Griffey doesn't get the best animations. I've seen that throughout the community. I've experienced it as well. I would not use Griffey in center. I would only really use him in left or right field, mainly left field, because he seems to get worse animations in right. But Lou Gehrig, I would say, is a little bit better than Griffey, basically at the plate. Because he also plays first base. I've been using this Lou Gehrig at first base ever since I've unlocked him. I use Griffey off the bench simply because I have a couple other options, like this Cody Bellinger in right field. I wanted to try this card out, and has been very effective for me. I started off a little bit slow with him, but with 119 power, 125 power, and 112 vision, this card really gets the job done. He has elite defense as well, 83. The reaction's good enough, the fielding is good enough, and the arm strength is legit. I have to put Bob Feller on this list. I think that you have to include a couple starting pitchers. It's tough for me because starting pitching is probably my weakest link in the game. Pitching in general is something that I have struggled with in the entire year. And I think that if I'm able to find a couple pitchers that are able to lock it down for me, like Bob Feller and this Clayton Kershaw, who is probably the best pitcher in the game, if this card can shut down your opponents for 6 innings, 7 innings, then you will be able to put yourself in a good situation, a good position to get the job done and get that victory. So basically for this video, I wanted to focus on the best cards in the game, ranking them a little bit in a tier list. I also wanted to give back to you guys. Up top here we have Willie Mays as one of the best cards in the game. If you notice, there is a PlayStation Network code. This is a $10 giveaway that I'm going to be doing. The first person to type this in will go ahead and redeem $10 for the PlayStation Network store. You can use this to unlock next year's collection reward, as it was this year in Willie Mays. But I think that Ted Williams is a little bit better. I think that Ted Williams is a better hitter simply because he has a better swing. This is all personal preference. Obviously, Ted Williams isn't a 5-tool player with elite defense and speed, but because this card is one of the better hitters for me in the game, I have him ranked a little bit higher than Willie Mays. And Willie Mays and Tony Gwynn were probably the two highest cards I ranked in the previous video. I have to give the best card in the game this year to Babe Ruth. This card has been absolutely amazing for me. Started off a little bit slow with him, but I have recently hit many home runs His defense is just good enough out there where you can get a speed boost. He has just enough speed to make some of the plays in left field. I think that overall Babe Ruth is the best card. But thank you all for watching. Hopefully someone won that $10 PSN code, and let me know down in the comment section if you were able to redeem it. Until next time, everyone, I'm College Lefty. I will be live a little bit later tonight with viewer games. Yesterday I got completely smacked by you all. I'm looking forward to it once again tonight, and hopefully I can play a little bit better for you guys. Still have a ton of clips to go through and edit for some gameplay highlights. But until next time, everyone, peace out.